So traders, I want to encourage you. I was thinking about this today. I've just got back from the gym and I'm just going for a walk this afternoon to remove my legs, and I want to talk to you guys about don't take it. Do not take it. Meaning, it is not worth it, right? And what I'm talking about here is this, is that as I've gone along as a trader myself, and as a trader myself, first and foremost, I'm a trader, second, I'm a coach, okay? My number one thing for me is always, what do I need to learn? What is the skills? What is the mindset? What is the approach? What's the right thinking? Everything that goes into how do I make money this year from trading? That's been my number one thing. Ever since I started 20 years ago, right? It's been my number one thing. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because I have learned that throughout the year, there are pockets of really good, amazing opportunities, right? Can you guys see? There we go. There's a pockets of really amazing opportunities. Now, firstly, you need to be able to identify that opportunity, right? That's where you need to understand what does a good setup look like. That's so important, right, guys? It's like if you're going to the market today and you don't even know what you're looking for, you're just gonna guess. That is a recipe for disaster, right? You're definitely gonna lose all your money because you might be lucky 1 minute. You might be not lucky the next minute, and then there's no, you're not there, right? You're not there. So, the whole thing about this is that don't take it. What I mean by this is this, right? As I said before, my number one thing is it's never been long-term investing for me. The reason why, when I first started trading 20 years ago, I was always in these different jobs, and I said, okay, you know what? I just want to quit my job. And I first started the thinking of, if I could just replace my income from trading, if I can just replace my income from trading, then I won't have to work anymore. By the way, when I thought that, it never worked, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? When you say, I want to replace my income, right? What ends up happening with that? Because you just don't, right? Because not every week is the same week. Not every week is going to present you the same opportunities. That was always, and because I was always listening to this marketing and, weekly income and daily income and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you guys will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was always spinning the wheels, right? So, the whole thing about that is, I then started to realize that I could make, 6 figures a year from trading. But that's 6 figures a year that I started to realize more and more and more and more as I continued along my journey as a trader. I realized that I can do 6 figures a year, but that 6 figures a year is not $2,000 a week. That 6 figures a year is not, isn't that gorgeous, guys? Look at that. Look at that. Look at the sun shining through. Woo, look at that sun. Gorgeous. Anyway, so I started to realize that I can do $100,000 a year, but it's very, very, very difficult to do $2,000 a week or $8,000 a month, even though it's the exact same thing. You know what I mean? And so the whole thing about that is, I had to learn that the hard way, right? I had to learn the hard way of going down the path. And that comes to what I was saying before, is don't take it. And what I mean by that is that once I started to understand what goes into a good setup, and that's always the hardest part for most people who trade the markets, right? And it's one of the things that I'm always talking about with my inner circle members. I'm really, really, really talking to them about them. And my coaching program, my number one thing is that you need to understand what goes into a good setup. And what does it look like? And what does the setup look like now? And what's the entry candle? And everything that goes into that setup. Once you know what a good setup looks like, now your job is to actually go find that. So then I for so many years I was like, going back to what I was saying before, so many years I would be like, it'll be like, oh man, I want to replace my income. But then I realized for many, many, many years, I'd look at my trading account and there'll be pockets of really good months, really, really, really good months. But then I'd do some stupid shit And I'd take some dumbass stuff because I wasn't patient enough. But I wasn't patient enough because I didn't understand the nature of what does it take to make a good income, which that's not even the right word. How do I make good money this year? Right? Because the income terminology is what? Income, you think, oh, every week, every month, right? You think that. That thinking is flawed. And so because I had that thinking, when I realized, when my system didn't present opportunities for me, that's when I'd be going down the path of taking all this other bullshit that I shouldn't be taking. And, you know, and all this other stuff. And then that would send me backwards. And that's when, you know, especially going down the path of intraday trading, where you sit in front of the screens for 4 or 5 or 6 hours straight, and you're trying to make that income from that approach. I just want to trade full time. Yeah. I just want to trade full time. Right? So, yeah, I just want to trade full time, right? So, you know, so therefore I want to replace my job with trading, and therefore I want to replace the income. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That never works, right? I spent so many years trying to go down that path, but then I realized that how trading really works, how to have a good income per year, not per month, right? Or a 6-figure year. If you want to make $100,000 this year, how realistically that's going to look for you is, firstly, you must understand your edge, right? Your edge, your system, or whatever you're going to do. Now, I prefer to have an edge that's more high probability but less trades. So therefore, the edge that I like to do, that I like to teach my coaching clients, is less trades but high probability, and also the identification of that setup that's likely to make a big move, right? Not just for a small little profit, but big profits. Because big profits throughout the year, that's how you end up with that $100,000. You don't make big profits by doing credit spreads. You know, a little 20-cent credit here and 30. No. Right? You don't do credit spreads, guys. If you know what I'm talking about, don't do credit spreads. Don't do scalping trading. That's the worst type of trading you can do. Right? The worst type of trading. A little small profit here, little small profit here, little small profit here. Because I used to do that, right? I used to sit up for 8, 9, 10 hours. And I used to try to get ahead. And because it was just like, you know, it's hard by doing that way, right? It's so hard. It's difficult and it's painful, and then you make mistakes, and then you're not spending time with your family, you're not spending time with your wife and your kids, you know, and then you're not even making any money because you're not even just getting ahead in the markets, and then you start to get sick, and then you start to put on weight, and then it's a recipe for disaster. And you're not talking to anyone, and then you're cranking with yourself, and then you're fighting with your wife, and then it's, you know what I mean? And so I've just learned throughout the time that trading the market, sitting in front of the screen all day, is definitely not the way to go. But the reason why I say what I say here is, when I remember I said before, like, my goal is, how do I make good money this year? And I say that from a perspective of one of the big things that stops traders is what I started this video off with, right? Which was what? I started this video off with, you guys, by don't take it. What that simply means is this: if you actually want to be successful in trading, you've got to be real with yourself here, right? You've got to have a self-accountability to say, you know what? If I actually truly want long-term success, not just being lucky, not just jumping on a gold trade right now and it goes to 4,000. You know, you got it right, yippee-doo-day, okay, cool. That's not successful trading long-term, right? If you actually want long-term success, if you want to be successful this year and next year and the year after and the year after, you need to be able to trade a system that never changes. And I was recently showing my coaching clients, I went back to 2016, 2017, and I was showing them all the trades I was taking back then of the exact same system that I trade to this day. So I go back to what I was saying to you guys before, is that don't take it. So your first port of call of these markets is, you must understand what goes into a high quality setup that's likely to make a profit. Meaning, you're going to have losses, right? Most traders' problems is that, one, they don't even know what that is. Secondly, there is no consistency behind them. If you want consistently good income throughout the year, or have good years year after year after year, then you must be consistently doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so the one thing that I do share with you is this. Trading can be so amazing, guys. It really, really, really can. And our thinking and our approach most of the time is wrong. Meaning we think we need to, if we hop on our 5-minute trades and our 2-minute trades and our 1-minute trades, we can have more trades that's going to equal more income. If I can sit in front of the screen for 6 hours per day, I'm going to have more opportunities, I'm going to take more trades, I'm going to make more money, I'm going to make more income. What ends up happening with that there? You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't make any money. You end up going backwards every single week. Why? Little profit here, little profit here, little profit here, big loss, big loss, big loss. Or there might be a very quiet period, and then you might be sitting in front of the screen for 4 hours, and then like, oh, there's been no trades. But then you just want to take a trade, and then you take a trade, and that's a loss, and then that hurts your confidence, and it's all downhill from there. That's where most traders' thinkings, and I've only learned this from, the hard way. I've learned this from, going down the hard way of, understanding the nature of the beast. And so one thing, that's the reason why I like my trading now. I make so much more money with my trading now, trading half an hour and 1 hour per day maximum. Now, when I say I trade, guys, the way that I like to trade, and the reason why I don't like to trade 5-minute charts anymore, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I've found so much more greater success by trying to identify trades, just like I'm in right now. I'm in a trade right now, and it's not a guessing trade, it's a system that I use. It's the same thing every single time. This type of trading system, right? I have 2 different types of levels of trades. The first level 1 trade is what's called a shorter term trade. I'm in and out within 2 to 5 days. Utilize options, you can do a 50-80% return within 2 to 5 days of that trade. Level 1 trade. A level 2 trade for me, which is what I got into just recently, just yesterday. This has the potential of being a big mover over the next month or more. And has the potential of doing 3, 4, 500% return. The last time I had a trade like this, I did 400% return in 6 weeks. One of my trades in the last few years did 1,200% return of this type of trade. But it's the same setup, right? It's not like a guessing trade. It's not like a guessing setup. But the first one I'm saying is I know what I'm looking for in my level 1 and level 2 trade. Level 1 is just a short-term trade. Level 2 is the setup, but it's got a few extra steps in there. But it's the same thing that allows me to identify these trades. So my job is I've found so much more success in, one, not taking this other stuff, because that's when I used to go wrong, right? Even if I did trade a good setup, it was the times when the market's gone quiet, and I didn't realize like, oh, the market's gone quiet, I shouldn't be trading right now. I haven't had a trade for a week. I haven't had a trade for 2 weeks. I haven't had a trade for a whole month. It doesn't matter, right? And the only reason why you want to trade right now, because you think, oh my goodness, I am here to make an income per year or per month or per week, and then you take a whole bunch of crap, you end up losing money, and then when a really good setup comes around, now you're not confident to take that, and you should have taken that, that runs on for profit. The trade that you shouldn't have taken, you did take, that loses, and now you're all over the place. Makes sense? And so, start off with this video here is, the whole thing about this video here is what? Don't take it. And that simply means that I have just learned, and I was saying this with my coaching clients, is that it's just not worth it, right? Again, I have found so much more success in, if I don't trade for a whole month, but I have one really good trade that makes me 6 figures from a $20,000 trade. We're not talking big money here, by the way, right? If I do a $20,000 trade and it runs on for 400-500% return, guess what that is? That's a $100,000 profit in one trade over the course of 4 to 6 weeks. You see what I'm saying here? Right? This is the different level of thinking, and then you can start to go to multiple 6 figures, and this is how you do a 7-figure year. By minimizing those mistakes, by not taking the trades when you shouldn't, understand the nature of the beast throughout the year. You're going to have your seasons, right? You're going to have your quiet seasons, and then you're going to have your quiet. I've gone through a quiet season, and now I'm picking back up. I've just got into an amazing trade now, and I have another 19 stocks that are setting up. All I'm waiting for is my entry candle. So now I'm going to go into an active season where there's going to be a lot of good trades, and I'm going to make a lot of money. And then from that process, I know after this season, I went through a quiet season where there wasn't many trades. Now there's going to be a lot of trades over the next couple of months. And then guess what? There's going to be another season where I'm going to go through a few weeks, maybe a month or more, where there's not going to be many trades. But once I understand that, I now have really, really, really good successful years. But it must be I must have to say, guys, that probably have to say at least 60% of the months, it's very, very, very little activity. Doesn't mean there's no activity, there's very little activity. The activity months are only about 30-40% of the months. But that activity makes so much money because I'm waiting for those high quality trades. Make sense, guys? And so this is what I really want to share with you guys today on this call today. Guys, if you do need some help with this sort of stuff, second link in the description, go apply for my coaching program. I'll be able to help you with all this sort of stuff, right? It's the right thinking, the right strategies, the right approach. How do you identify trades that's likely to make a big move so we can get you on that, not jumping in, jumping out, so you can actually ride big profits on one trade instead of doing it 100 times. Speak to you soon, guys.